Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Gostaria de agradecer a presença de todos, né?
I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance in this press conference for the UFC 224.
Estamos muito felizes em voltar à cidade do Rio de Janeiro.
We're very happy to be back to Rio de Janeiro.
A gente sempre faz super card para a cidade.
We always have a great card in the city,
Fazer card, promete ser card.
and we have a promising card for this event.
Na luta principal da noite,
In the
temos a primeira
night's main event,
da campeã do solo brasileiro.
we have the champion's first title defense in Brazil.
Primeiro de solo brasileiro, e a Amanda Nunes vai lutar contra a Raquel Pennington.
Amanda Nunes fighting Raquel Pennington.
Ela é a segunda no ranking, né?
Pennington is number 2 in the ranking.
E também teremos outras lutas que vão mexer muito.
And we'll also have other fights that are going to have a lot of interest from the fans. We're bringing a very interesting fight, a fight of legends for this card. 2 big names. We're going to have a fight between Lyoto Machida, the Dragon, against Vitor Belfort. So it's a super fight for you guys. Another fight that is also very promising and it's going to move the middleweight division is Ronaldo Jacar Souza, who's coming off a win against another great athlete in Kelvin Gastelum. He's a very competitive guy and has a history of fighting against Brazilians. And they're going to have this great fight against Ronaldo Souza. We also have names such as Thales Leites, who's here with us, Davi Ramos, John Lineker, Mackenzie Dern, Alberto Mina, and Junior Albini. So those are some names that are going to be on our card. Yeah. And we're also going to announce one more fight exclusively to you guys. We're going to have Warley Alves versus Sultan Aliyev. So it's a fight that is fresh, we just confirmed. And we're happy because the card is always getting more competitive. I wanted to give a message about the tickets. The tickets are starting to sale tomorrow on the website, tudus.com.br. And we're also beginning tomorrow our big social campaign that we do. We've been doing for 5 years. The UFC breaks records with we help a lot of social institutions, and we take this very seriously, this campaign, especially this year in Rio de Janeiro. We're having a big campaign and a message of peace that we're also sending with that. Today we're able to go up with some of the fighters to the arm of the Christ, the Redeemer. Amanda Nunes and Pennington went up there. It was a great message of peace, where we had both of them on top of the Christ, and it was a very cool action. And in our social engagement, we're going to be trading 1 kilo of non-perishable food for a ticket for the weigh-ins, which will be at the arena, so people will have the opportunity to see the fighters face off. And I also wanted to talk about the partnership that we have with Guanabara grocery stores. They will double all the donations. They did this last time in Rio de Janeiro. They're going to double our donations, so that's very important to us. The grocery store will double and team up with us. I wanted to open up for questions for the fighters. We're very excited for this great card. Good afternoon. First question for Amanda and Raquel. You took a picture together yesterday, having dinner, if I'm not mistaken. It's a fight that you're both fighting for a world title. something that we don't see very often. Two friends that have a close relationship like you two fighting for a title. What's that like? How do you separate that? Did you ever talk about this yesterday or in these last few months about separating the friendship and competition?
I think for me, I mean, we met because of the sport, and so it's kind of one of those things so where it's business in the octagon. So once that cage door closes, it's something else. But right now we have respect, we have sportsmanship, and we have our friendship.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting fight because of the friendship that we have. So it's going to be good to see the reaction from the fans, because it's not going to be, I'm not going to talk any trash about her and she's not going to talk about me. We're going to go in there and show our work, show what we're here to do, which is to get in there in that cage and do our best and to get out with the victory. But of course, only one's going to be able to come out with that. So I believe that it's going to have a lot of repercussions. It's going to be very different for the fans. The fans haven't seen that before. So I'm very excited for this fight. And I know that it's going to be very good. And she was in tough. So she fought against friends in the house. And I fought against other girls that I've had friendship before, like Miesha Tate. I went to the Miesha Tate after party after she fought Holly Holm. I was there, so it's very natural to us. We're very professional. Another question. This fight has been notified for some time. It was close to being announced, close to UFC Orlando, but it was only announced 2 weeks ago, officially by the UFC. I wanted to know what happened. Why did it take so long for it to become official? We heard that there could have been a problem with some injuries with both of you or one of you. Do you know why it took so long? Yeah, this fight was going to happen and it took some time to be announced. She had an accident and we had to postpone a little bit and during negotiations. But I don't know what happened, and she ended up fighting with another opponent and she got better. When they offered me to fight, and I said, I'm not going to just sit and let's go. So I think it was on their part. It was all good for me. Amanda, there's been a lot said about your fight against Chris. And you said that it could be a possible opponent for you after UFC Rio. Do you think that's disrespectful to Pennington since the fight hasn't even happened? No, it was a question that I was asked and I answered it. Because he was talking about Chris and Kathleen's also in the division coming off a great fight. So he asked me and I said, I think Kathleen has the opportunity to be the next one. And that was the only reason why I talked about Kathleen. I'm not trying to put her ahead of this fight that I have with Raquel. This fight was already going to happen for some time. And that's it. A question for Pennington. I wanted to know, how was it dealing with the speculation about the possible fight against Amanda and Cyborg, knowing that you were so close to the title? Were you afraid that this fight was not going to happen?
For me, it was pretty frustrating. I did get really frustrated throughout the whole part when they were talking a lot about Chris and Amanda. I did face a lot of injuries this past year, so but I did feel like I have deserved this opportunity, and it's exactly what I wanted to come back to. I know that when I got injured again, Amanda did say she didn't want to wait that long to take a fight, which I completely understand. None of us like having such a long layoff. But for me, I mean, the fight just I think this was a conversation we had last night too, because it was a fight that didn't make sense to me. I think that the 135-pound division, to move forward and have some action, was exactly what made sense. So that's kind of where I stood.
Onde eu estava. Did the speculation motivate you to show Amanda that you deserve this chance and not to be sitting around?
It motivated me to show everybody that I deserve this chance, just because I feel like I've worked for this opportunity and I don't think it was right to be taken away.
Question for Thales and Davi. I wanted you to talk a little bit about fighting at home. You represent Jiu-Jitsu. What's it like fighting in Rio? Fighting at home is always excellent. First of all, you're fighting close to your family, to your crowd, the weather that you're used to, it's your city. And another thing that is very good, that you don't have to get on an airplane. There's no difference in time. It's very good for your weight cutting, because you don't retain any liquids in a flight and all this. That's very tiring. So it's only good points fighting at home and being able to give a show here, representing Brazil in Rio de Janeiro and Jiu-Jitsu here in Rio. Everything that Thales said and a little bit more. For me, it's really important to have this fight here in Rio. It's my home, it's my hometown. And also being able to represent Jiu-Jitsu with Thales and to show everyone this opportunity of fighting at UFC 224 and why I came, and I'm here to stay. Question for Lyoto. Talk about what you're expecting about fighting against Vitor Belfort. It's supposed to be his last fight. What do you expect from the fight? Good afternoon. This fight, if it's really his last fight, it's an honor to be part of this event, because it's a historic moment. He's a guy that helped build this sport. He's done a lot for the sport in Brazil and throughout the world. So to be part of this moment, it's an honor for me. So I'm training very well. I want to have an excellent camp. I think I have enough time to do that. And I'll be here on May 12th and we'll put on a show, because I believe that this fight is good for everyone. For me, for Vitor, for the fans, for everyone. I think everyone will like to watch this fight, so it's a good fight for everyone. Amanda, you fought in Rio before in a different situation. Right after winning the title, you talked about being the new face of women's MMA and being recognized by the fans. What do you expect about that? You're coming back here as a champion. Do you think the fans are going to recognize it? Do you feel anything different? You've been here for a few days, or do you think that's going to be happening on the fight week? It takes some time for people to readapt to a new champion. I'm coming in slowly. I need to have patience, but I already see the return from the fans. I think I need to let them be comfortable. I don't need to be thinking that my followers need to go up or anything like that. I just need to dance with the music. You know, I need to go in slowly and defending my title and keeping it, which is most important. And keeping this belt is what's going to really make the fans get to know the athlete that I am. So I believe that the return is big, especially now coming back to Brazil after 3 years. My debut in the UFC was here. I was victorious. The two fights I had here, I was victorious, and this is just one more that's going to repeat itself, for sure. I want to be here in Brazil more. I left Brazil very early, and I didn't have the chance to create my roots here, so I want to have the opportunity to come back now as a champion after I fulfill my dream. And I want to fulfill another dream, which is to get the Brazilian crowd on my side and start speaking some Portuguese again, because I dedicated myself to English living abroad. I needed to speak the language. I needed to dedicate myself because I needed to communicate with the fans there. So I believe that slowly I'll arrive to the right point in my career. But I'm very happy, and that's what's most important. I want to stay focused at the moment and maintain my base. This is how I am, and I'm never going to change for anything, so I want to keep that and maintain. And from here on, I think the fans are going to recognize me. And slowly I'll have more followers, and everything's going to change. Recently, Jessica Andrade declared that you rooted for Tecia Torres instead of Jessica. What do you have to say about that? What do you think about her posture in the current MMA scene? I was surprised. Ticia's my friend. Tecia trained with me since I arrived at American Top Team. Jessica's Brazilian, and I was happy with her win. But in that moment, I was going for my friend. If Jessica was my friend, I would have rooted for her. So I kind of didn't know why, but in the UFC party that we had in Vegas, I was there with Tecia and Nunes and another teammate of ours, and Jessica was alone. So then, for her not to be alone, I called her over to my group and told her to stay with us. And Tecia was in our group. She's already my friend. So I think that, I don't know, maybe she thought that we had a friendship more than we really do. But it's not because she fought Tecia that I shouldn't like her because she beat Tecia. I think it was great. She had a great performance. It was a great fight. But it's not that I root against Andrade. I think you need to be able to separate that. MMA is not about that. You root for whoever you want, and people need to respect. That's the truth. Respect is the most important thing. So I think that it was unfortunate for her to say that in the interview, but it's okay. If we see each other, we'll definitely talk about it, and everything's going to be fine. Question for Lyoto. You're a guy who's fought Mark Munoz, a guy who you train with, and now you're going to fight against Belfort. If the UFC were to match you with Anderson Silva, or were to offer you Anderson Silva, would you fight him? Anderson and I have a close relationship. We train more together. We go to each other's homes, and it's a bit of a different situation. My kids always go to his gym, so it's a different situation. Question for Amanda. Before and after the Ronda fight, you complained about how the UFC were promoting you, that they weren't promoting you only Ronda. It's been some time since that. How do you see your relationship with the UFC today? Do you think that you're promoted in the way you deserve? And how do you analyze your posture with dealing with the media? Are you more open, more closed after everything that happened with the fight with Ronaldo? I'm going to be very honest. I closed myself off a little bit to the media I was never a fighter that likes to give interviews all the time and traveling. That's all new to me. So I had to adapt to it. And adapting to it, I had a lot of ups and downs. And I'd rather keep myself to myself and only talk when it was the right moment. I didn't want to open up too much. And a lot of things were happening in my career. So I wanted to have the right time to talk, and so I wouldn't say anything without thinking. I've already said a lot of things without thinking, and I don't want to make those mistakes anymore. Before talking, now I talk to my sister about what I need to get better, even with my Portuguese. I think I've improved a lot. I'm working on my Portuguese. So I kept to myself a lot now. This is a great moment to talk right now. So I believe that everything takes time, even for the media to accept a new change, a new champion. Everything was about Ronda. There was no time for anyone else. So today everything changed. After I became champion, everything changed little by little. So I hope to change, and I'm liking, it's motivating me. I think that's it. This changes anyone's life. It changed my life. So I need to maintain this to continue at the top. I can only improve from here on. Another question for Davi. You said you weren't satisfied with your last performance in the UFC, even though it was a... Why is that, and what do you intend on changing to have a good performance? A fight's a fight, and training's training. I think I trained too much for my last fight, and I wasn't able to fight in the way that I expect from myself. I think that's a fight, the pressure of being there. I was coming off a loss to Serginho. I think I didn't lose it, but I was coming off a loss to him. And I think there was some pressure of being in the UFC, the world's biggest organization. There was some time that I had made that weight, and I fought, I won all rounds, but I wasn't satisfied. I think it's something more personal because I demand a lot from myself in every training session. So for me, it's like fighting in every training session. So that's why I wasn't as satisfied with my performance, even though it was 100%. And we always have specialists in the UFC in different disciplines. You as the Abu Dhabi champion and a representative of Jiu-Jitsu, do you want to be more like Damian Maia that flies that Jiu-Jitsu flag, or do you want to be like Mackenzie Dern, who's from Jiu-Jitsu but wants to show that she's a complete fighter? My fighting style in Jiu-Jitsu was always to be a complete fighter. I take down, I submit, I do everything. So I think that's my game. I don't think it's going to be any different in MMA. I came to the UFC to impose my game, and I want to be 100% wherever I go, and I want to give my best. I wanted to ask Minotauro. We see in this card that there's two friends, former teammates fighting each other, Lyoto and Vitor, who have trained together. They're colleagues, they're also fighting each other. We see a change, something that didn't happen in your time, for instance. We didn't see teammates and friends fighting each other. It was actually the theme between the Anderson Silva and Vitor fight, that two teammates were fighting each other. How do you see that change in MMA? Do you think this is more healthy? Do you think this is the future? It's the evolution. We see that today. It's a sport that people want to arrive at the top. They want to get to the championship position. So in a certain way, I believe that even being friends, when the octagon door closes, it's going to be a fight. When the door closes, it's going to be a fight as if it were between two people that don't have a friendship. Just like sparring in the gym where two friends spar, very tough. We want to win even in sparring. Nobody wants to lose in training. And for sure, on that day when they close the octagon, it's going to be the moment of truth. It's cool to have a friendship, and it's great to have this respect in a professional level. But when the door closes, you're going to see a real fight in there. So it's a higher level of the sport that we're getting to. And people that are fans at home, they want to see that. This happens a lot in tennis, in basketball, and soccer. When the match is over, people hug, but when it's happening, it's for real. A question for Lyoto. In your last 4 fights, you've come off 3 defeats, and you have a win over Eric Anders in your last fight. My question is, what's your intention in the future in the organization? Do you want to have special fights, super fights? Do you want to get to the belt in your division? Or do you intend on just going through your fights and finding another organization? I want to stay in the UFC. I really like the UFC. I want to be paving this path here. In reality, I think at a moment at a time now. I think this fight's very important, this fight against Vitor. So this moment's most important for me. I don't want to put anything ahead of that. Of course, I have my goals and my dreams and my thoughts, but I'd rather not think about that right now, and I want to think about what I need to do, because that's what really matters right now, is this fight. Amanda, question for you. You talked about some time ago about having a child. When's that coming? I haven't even gotten married yet. I think that those are future plans. Nina's getting closer to their ranking, and I think she has a great chance of also being the champion. So she wants another couple of opportunities to see where she can get in the rankings, and then we'll decide about getting married and having kids. Her dream's to have a kid. Her dream is also the belt, but being a mother is what she really wants. So we'll see after her next 2 fights. If she wins or loses. If she loses, we're having a kid. If she wins, then we'll wait another one and see if she gets to the belt. But we'll see. Question for Raquel. How do you feel with everything being talked about the Amanda and Chris Cyborg super fight? Do you think you're underestimated?
I think that I've been underestimated my entire career. So it's something that I'm kind of used to. It actually takes the pressure off of me, and I can just go out and continue to chase a passion and have fun. Is it something that I'm really tired of? Yeah. So, you know, I'm on a mission to prove my own point, and people really need to stop underestimating me.
Lyoto, you're coming off a close win over Eric Anders. How do you analyze that fight? What do you intend on changing for this fight against Vitor? Every fight has its moment. In that moment, I could have done more, or something different could have happened, but it didn't, and that's the result we had. So I try to celebrate every moment, even if I'm not completely satisfied, but that accomplishment is important to me, especially the moment that I was going through. the defeat that I had in the past against Derek Brunson. So the changes from one fight to the other, strategically and in fighting moment, it happens. Vitor Belfort's a different fighter, so I can't say I'm going to change everything, but there's a lot of things that I need to adjust because they're different people. They fight differently. Vitor has a type of fight and Eric Anderson a different type of fight. So now we have to wait for a successful camp so that we can have this great fight. Lyoto, about Vitor, in your opinion, what are the biggest risks in his game against you? Vitor's a quick guy. He likes to counterattack quickly. He has a great weapon. He becomes dangerous because of that. And if you put a lot of pressure, he reacts quickly, and you have to be prepared for it. So I believe he's a complete fighter. He can fight in anywhere. He can take you down. He can fight on the ground. But he really likes to stand apart. I really like it too. So I think it's a really well-matched fight for my fighting style. For Thales, you're a UFC veteran. You've been in the organization for a long time. And when you came back to the UFC, you had a good sequence of wins, but you haven't had that in the past fights. How do you feel about this moment in your career? How do you see yourself right now? Do you want to get to the belt? Do you want to maintain yourself? What are you thinking right now before another fight in Rio? I for sure want to get back to the win column. I'm dedicating myself for that, training a lot to be there 100% physically and mentally and win. We fight. We're in an individual contact sport. So there's a lot of demand on top of us. People demand a lot from us. So if you have a bad performance, or sometimes you don't have a bad performance, but your opponent's performance was better, the truth is two people are going to fight and one's going to be the winner. You need to know how to deal with that and to come back around and get back into training. Otherwise, you're not going to leave your house, because a lot of times people comment disrespectfully about us, but when you're coming off a win, you're good. If you lose, I think everyone's gone through that. If you haven't yet, you're going to one day. We're human beings like any others. We have our daily activities, we train, and that's the situation in there. In our sport, if you had a bad performance or a good performance and your opponent was better than you, which happens a lot, for you to fight again 3, 4, 5 months later, it's gonna, a lot of sports, like tennis, for instance, another individual sport, if you lose one time, you're gonna play another game really quickly. So you have to be able to deal with that and train well and turn it around. For Raquel again, in the fight against Amanda and Ronaldo, you're trained. Do you think that's an advantage for you, that you already know her game well?
I've been around Amanda for a long time. We obviously fought on a few cards back at Invicta, and then obviously being friends and seeing her fight throughout this time. But you know, I mean, when it comes to this sport, I'm very aware of my opponents and what they have to offer and stuff like that. But I think what's got me as far as I am, I spend a lot of time focusing on myself and what I can control and what I can do, and I just push to be my best in those aspects. So I'll pay attention to some of their specialties, and then I push to what's going to better me in those positions.
Aqui é a Anaísa, do canal Combate com TV. Queria que a Amanda falasse, aproveitando que
I want to Amanda to talk. Raquel talked about Invicta.
Desse novo papel que você está tendo no
About this new role that you have in Invicta. How do you see the growth of women's MMA? The moment that we're living in Brazil, 2 Brazilians, 2 champions. It's a different champion, and you have a different role in Invicta right now. It's really important to have this role in Invicta for me. I know Shannon Knapp since she was in Strikeforce. When Strikeforce hired me, Shannon was the matchmaker for Strikeforce. So I have a great relationship with her. And since Strikeforce, I already knew about Invicta. So I was always thinking about it. I thought that I wanted to be part of that. I want to be part of the show, help promote women's MMA, be in the midst in some way, because when I retire, I want to stay in this. I told the UFC that I want to work when I retire from fighting. I always want to be in this. I joked at the last Invicta. I joked with my friends, man, I think I want to be an Invicta matchmaker. I'm going to speak to Shannon. I'm going to help the Brazilians. Because the girls don't speak English yet, so the communications is tough. And maybe having me there, it can ease that. So I helped Vanessa Porto in the last one. I helped Jennifer Maia, so it was really cool. And from there, I went back home, and when I got home, there was a message from Shannon. I think one of my friends talked about it with her, and I got a message from her. Hey, I heard that you're interested in... Yeah, I didn't want to tell her, but I was in Invicta for a long time and she didn't know. So from there on, she gave me the role of matchmaker. And being at the weigh-ins, I'm really enjoying it, but I need to have everything done in my time. I have my career. But afterwards, I want to be in this. I want to help the Brazilian girls especially. Because I began here in Brazil. I know what it's like. I know how hard it was for me. I really had to leave Brazil to get here. There's people today that don't need that because the UFC is here. But at the time, I had to leave and try my career abroad. But today with Invicta, that's bringing up. There's a lot of girls that I see, and it's like, where do you find them? Because I don't even know where they come from in Brazil. So I want to be coming to Brazil. So I want to do a reality show or something to find new talents and have them win a new Invicta contract and have girls get to their dreams quicker. That's my role. What I didn't have is what I want to give to these girls. Give them a direction, a future, and help in that way. I think that role at Invicta came at the right time and in the way I really wanted. I'm enjoying it and I'm very motivated to continue. Also asking about that, about women's MMA. You talked at the beginning that this fight was important for the division. It's important to have this fight in the bantamweight division. How do you see this situation in the division currently? Raquel is clearly the #1 contender for the past year. No one has gotten in her way in this time. It almost looks like it's a lack of option. You see a lot of girls moving down in weight to flyweight and also featherweight that can pull out all of the girls. So how do you see bantamweight division and how to turn this division into one of the most exciting, like it was at the time when you took the belt? I think it needs to come from the UFC. The UFC matchmaker needs to have these girls fight. There needs to be contenders for me. I sometimes wait around for a year until Pennington or other girls. There's one thing bothering me. I don't think that she's the underdog. The problem is that my division stopped. Chris has also stopped. So there's the opportunity. The opportunity came up. I spoke to Dana White and I said, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Because I'm here. There's no one here. Rocky was injured, so I didn't want to put anyone ahead of her. She really wasn't ready to fight. She was injured. So I had to do something
me motivar também.
To motivate
Então,
myself
foi aí
even.
que entrou no caso da Cris.
And that's
Não,
when
mas se a Rock já
the
tivesse
Chris
pronto,
case
a
came
gente
up.
já tava
But
fazendo
if Raquel was ready, we would have already done the press conference and everything.
Mas, voltando ao assunto.
But back,
Divisão ter lugar, como fortalecer
então, as meninas têm que. O UFC tem que colocar as meninas não.
the UFC needs to have these girls fight.
Até as meninas. Tem gente aí que assinou que não lutou ainda.
There's girls that signed and haven't fought yet, so I think the matchmaker needs to work on that end
O que acontece?
and see what
Eu
happens.
posso ficar esperando também.
Because I can't just wait around either.
You know, there's a lot of talent in this division, in our division, in all the females divisions actually, but it's kind of one of those things to where I feel like there's women that they'll get their big names and everything else, and you have Ronda Rousey who paved a big way for women's MMA and did things, but it was just like, okay, it's just all about Ronda, it's all about Misha, and what about all the other girls who work really hard? What about all of us trying to climb the rankings? Like, I feel like we've all deserved our opportunities, and that's kind of one of those things to where I think that's why I got so frustrated. Like, I understand where Amanda's coming from as far as Chris Cyborg, and both of them were on hold with things and nothing was making sense, but there's a lot of 135ers there still. There's a lot of talent to actually start doing things and making moves, and it doesn't even have to be a title fight. It can be, you know, any fight. Just keep the division moving, keep showing the talent, and I think that's one thing that really stopped.